My name is Kara Whitman. I am 50 years old. 16 years of early mornings, late nights, and weekends spent hunched over spreadsheets instead of spending time with my family. 16 years of staying late to double-check numbers no one else would catch, of quietly pulling our company back from the brink more times than I could count. I wasn't flashy, never the one to deliver grand speeches or chase the spotlight. I was the one making sure the foundation was solid while everyone else clinked champagne glasses, and none of it mattered. I sat frozen at table 8 in the grand ballroom of the Austin Marriott, staring up at Adrian Blake, the man the board had hailed as our visionary savior. He stood on the stage under a wash of blue and gold lights, microphone in hand, his voice smooth and confident as he delivered his keynote speech at Navarus Technologies' biggest launch event to date. I listened as he praised the bold new direction of the company, all while subtly, and then not so subtly, cutting into the very people who had built it. "We had to make some difficult decisions," he said, glancing meaningfully toward my table. "To innovate, you have to eliminate obstacles, outdated methods, outdated mindsets. We removed the people who couldn't keep up, the ones holding us back." The words hit harder than I expected, sharp and deliberate. I could feel the stares. I could feel the silence behind the polite applause. And then, the final blow. "And sometimes," Adrian continued, voice dripping with false benevolence, "it's the ones you think you can rely on the most who become dead weight." A ripple of laughter from a few tables over. A slow building. Round of applause. I just sat there, staring, breathing, counting every second it took for the humiliation to fully sink in. 16 years reduced to a punchline. I tried not to look around, but it was impossible not to notice the smiles, the ones that were a little too smug, the ones that didn't even bother hiding their satisfaction. Some of them I had mentored. Some of them I had defended when promotions were on the line. None of it mattered now. Adrian didn't fire me in the privacy of his office. He didn't have the guts for that. No, he made a show of it. A spectacle. Public execution by way of a corporate rebranding event. I clenched my hands under the table, feeling the blood drain from my face, but I didn't move. I didn't give them the satisfaction. If they were expecting tears or a scene, they would leave disappointed. I sat there, a monument to 16 years of loyalty crumbling in real time, the bright lights burning overhead, the polite applause fading into background noise. It wasn't just betrayal. It wasn't just being discarded. It was the realization that the people who cheered the loudest had been waiting for this moment longer than I ever knew. And as I sat there, I realized something else too. I wasn't angry because Adrian called me useless. I was angry because for the first time in a long time, I could see it clearly. I wasn't. They just didn't deserve me. I didn't leave the ballroom right away. I sat there, feeling the weight of every single eye that dared glance in my direction, pretending not to notice. My glass of wine was untouched. I wanted to throw it in his smug face, but that wasn't me. It never was. When the applause died down and Adrian moved on to the next bullet point in his shiny presentation, projections, market expansion, glossy charts, I finally stood up. Quietly. I didn't make a scene. I walked out with my head high, my heels clicking against the marble like a slow, deliberate metronome. The parking lot air hit me like a slap. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at the glowing dashboard. 16 years. For what? Betrayal, wrapped in a soundbite. But as the numbness wore off, something else started simmering under my skin. Something colder. Clearer. I thought back to the months leading up to tonight. The meetings behind closed doors, the proposals Adrian pushed, aggressive sales forecasts that felt plucked from thin air, partnerships rushed through with barely a glance at the fine print. And the worst, the way he reclassified expenses, shuffling numbers around to dress up the books like it was some kind of high-stakes magic trick. I'd warned him. multiple times, quietly, respectfully, at first. I brought spreadsheets, models, emails. I thought if I showed him the risks, he'd listen. He didn't want facts. He wanted yes men. When I told him the numbers didn't add up, he smiled. That smug, patronizing smile, and told me I was stuck in the old ways. No, Adrian, I wasn't stuck. I was standing guard. For years, I had been the invisible wall between Novaris and disaster. The one who caught the mistakes before they became scandals. The one who held the line when everyone else was too busy chasing headlines. And if Adrian thought tearing me down publicly would erase that, he was wrong. I wasn't the dead weight. I was the ballast. Without me, the ship was going to sink, fast. And if they wanted a company without brakes, then fine. Let's see how far they'd get. Because while Adrian preened on stage and popped champagne with the board, he didn't know one thing. I had receipts. I had all of it. And I was done playing nice. It wasn't revenge I was after. It wasn't even justice, really. It was about setting the record straight. About not letting the lies become the only version of the story anyone remembered. So I got to work. Quietly. Methodically. The way I had done everything for the past 16 years. Except this time, I wasn't cleaning up their mess for them. I was documenting it. I started small. Downloading email threads, backing up spreadsheets. Nothing flashy. Nothing that would trigger a security flag. I made copies of vendor contracts that hadn't gone through legal. Cross-referenced invoices that didn't match project deliverables. I found entire accounts that didn't add up. Inflated revenue from deals with clients I'd never even heard of. When I started digging into those names, most of them didn't exist beyond a P.O. box and a disconnected phone number. Every night after work, I'd stay late, claiming I was catching up on quarterly audits. Nobody questioned it. Kara being in the office after hours was practically background noise. It didn't take long before the picture became clear. Adrian wasn't just reckless, he was orchestrating a full-blown financial fantasy. And he was gambling that no one would notice until it was too late. I knew what I had wasn't enough on its own. It's one thing to suspect fraud. It's another to prove it. So I called in backup. Henderson & Cole, LLP, a small but brutally honest auditing firm I trusted. I'd worked with them on a couple of merger evaluations back in the day, and they had a reputation for playing things by the book, even when it wasn't convenient. I didn't tell them everything up front. I just sent a hypothetical file. Anonymized, but detailed enough to raise alarms. Within a day, I got a call from Mark Cole himself. "Kara," he said low and serious, "whoever these guys are, they're in deep. We're talking material misstatement levels. SEC would have a field day with this." That's when I knew. It wasn't just enough to know the truth. I had to show it. I scheduled a formal review under the guise of updating our risk profile for a new product launch. Meanwhile, Adrian was busy preparing his keynote, oblivious, smiling for photos, shaking hands with investors he was about to deceive. I wasn't going to make a scene that night. No. I had something better planned. I had a black envelope with his name on it, and it was going to hit harder than any speech I could ever give. Launch night was a production. Lights, cameras, overpriced catering. Everyone was there. Board members, investors, journalists, employees who wanted to be seen cheering for the new era of Novaris. Adrian stood near the stage, preening in a crisp navy suit, smiling like he'd already won. I sat quietly at my assigned table, the black envelope tucked neatly in my leather bag. I watched him give interviews, shake hands, laugh a little too loud. If he noticed me in the crowd, he gave no sign. He thought I was finished, irrelevant, just a formality to be swept away on his big night. The keynote started. The lights dimmed. Adrian took the stage to a round of polite applause, throwing out buzzwords like disruption, unprecedented growth, and record-breaking quarters. I could barely hear him over the blood pounding in my ears, but I didn't need to. I knew every lie he was telling before he even opened his mouth. And then, like clockwork, I saw them. 2 security guards weaving through the crowd toward my table. Subtle, professional, ready to escort me out like some disruptive heckler. Smiled. Before they reached me, I stood, calm, steady. I picked up my bag, tucked it under my arm, and walked straight past them. They hesitated for a second, thrown off by how easy it was. The room quieted. Adrian, mid-sentence, noticed the movement. His smile froze. He thought I was about to cause a scene, throw a tantrum, embarrass myself. I didn't say a word as I climbed the steps to the stage. I didn't look at the crowd. My eyes stayed locked on his. For the first time all evening, Adrian's polished confidence cracked just a little. I walked up to him, pulled out the envelope, and pressed it into his hand. "Good luck," I said, not angry, not spiteful, just final. He frowned, confused, flipping open the flap. His eyes skimmed the first page, the audit withdrawal letter from Henderson and Cole, and then the second, a neat stack of exhibits. Doctored contracts, fake clients, reclassified expenses, and a small mountain of damning emails with his name all over them. I didn't wait for the reaction. I stepped down from the stage and headed for the exit. Behind me, the murmurs started. Chairs scraping, low, urgent whispers, investors checking their phones. Some of them stood, gathering coats and briefcases, faces pinched and tight. By the time I hit the lobby, the first investor had already walked out, and then another, and another. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I already knew what I'd left behind. Not a scandal, a crater. By Monday morning, it was all over the news. Novartis Technologies faces financial misconduct allegations, the headlines screamed. Analysts speculated. Journalists salivated. Inside sources leaked just enough to stir the pot without burning their own hands. Adrian Blake? Suspended pending. Investigation, the company said. But anyone who could read between the lines knew he was done. I ignored the first few calls from Novartis, then the next 10. They kept coming. Board members, legal, HR, even Adrian himself. I didn't pick up. I didn't respond. What was there to say? Sorry you thought you could rewrite the rules and not get caught. For the first time in 16 years, I wasn't tethered to someone else's mess. I wasn't stitching together disasters with duct tape and prayer. I was free. It didn't take long before the idea came together. Over coffee at a diner with 2 people I trusted, Melissa Chan, who'd run compliance before Adrian gutted the department, and Jordan Reyes, a forensic accountant sharp enough to smell a discrepancy 2 miles away, the plan started to take shape. Whitman Consulting. Small, focused, brutal in its honesty. We wouldn't chase giant corporations bloated with red tape. We'd help the companies no one else bothered with. The startups trying to clean up their books before IPO, the family businesses drowning in tax audits, the nonprofits blindsided by financial mismanagement. We'd be the people I had once wished existed when I sat alone in my office at Novartis, wondering how to fight a tide of corruption with nothing but a stubborn sense of right and wrong. Setting up wasn't glamorous. There were late nights, bad coffee, second-guessing every decision. But every form filed, every client signed. It was ours. No one could pull the rug out from under us. No one could stand on a stage and call us useless. For the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't waiting for permission to act. I wasn't chasing someone else's vision. I was building something real, something mine. And it felt damn good. The kind of good that seeps into your bones and reminds you. The end of one story isn't failure, it's freedom. It didn't take long for the walls to cave in. By the end of the month, Novartis was under full-scale federal investigation. Securities fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy to falsify financial records. Adrian's mugshot splashed across the evening news like a cautionary tale dressed in a designer suit. They perp-walked him straight out of his gated community, still wearing his expensive loafers and that same smug expression. Only this time, it didn't look so confident. I watched it unfold from my small but growing office at Whitman Consulting, a cup of strong coffee in hand, and my phone buzzing with new client inquiries. I didn't gloat. I didn't post vague victory quotes on LinkedIn. I didn't need to. The Wall Street Journal ran a full feature. Whistleblower CFO exposes corporate fraud, a lesson in integrity. Forbes dubbed me the steadfast whistleblower of the year, which sounded fancier than anything I'd ever called myself. Awards, interviews, keynote invitations, they flooded in. I turned down most of them. Let the headlines do their thing. I wasn't interested in fame. What I cared about was what came next. Whitman Consulting wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. The word got out fast. If your company was drowning in a financial mess, we were the team you called before. It turned into a crime scene. We weren't interested in prettying up balance sheets. We told the truth, even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. In a world where so many execs thought they could outsmart the system, it turned out honesty was a bigger differentiator than any marketing strategy. We signed 3 major contracts within the first quarter. 2 family-owned manufacturing firms and 1 nonprofit that had almost gone under due to internal embezzlement. They didn't want a cover-up. They wanted a way forward, and we gave it to them. There were still nights when I sat alone in my office after everyone had left, looking out the window at the Austin skyline and thinking about how fast everything had changed. A year ago, I was just another cog in a machine, grinding myself down to keep someone else's illusion alive. Now, I was the one setting the terms. Funny how losing everything, your title, your corner office, your supposed security, can be the exact thing that finally sets you free. I never kept trophies in my office. No framed degrees, no glossy magazine covers, no glass plaques gathering dust. That kind of recognition was always for people chasing validation. But there was one thing, one small thing, hanging behind my desk now. A simple wooden plaque, barely bigger than a sheet of paper. No gold trim, no flashy fonts, just 5 words carved deep into the grain. Integrity isn't negotiable. I found myself staring at it a lot in the quiet moments, when the emails slowed down and the noise faded. It wasn't for the clients, or the staff or the reporters still sniffing around for a quote. It was for me. A reminder, a promise. A line I would never cross, no matter how easy or profitable it might be. Some days, I thought back to that night in the grand ballroom. The lights, the fake smiles, the polite applause after Adrian called me useless. How I sat there, humiliated, feeling like the ground had been yanked out from under me. I had thought it was the end. Turns out, it was just a clean break. A necessary one. Now, when I looked out the wide glass windows of my office, sunlight pouring over the city, all I saw was possibility. Austin stretched out before me, busy, messy, alive. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was standing at the beginning of something instead of the end. Whitman Consulting wasn't the biggest firm. We didn't have the fanciest offices or the flashiest website. But what we had was real. We had clients who trusted us because we told them the truth, even when it hurt. We had a team that showed up every day knowing no one here would ever ask them to lie, to cheat, or to sell out. Most importantly, we had each other's respect. The kind that doesn't come from job titles or paychecks, but from knowing you stood for something when it would have been easier to sit down. I didn't need the approval of a boardroom anymore. I didn't need to chase someone else's vision of success. I had built my own, and I wasn't negotiating. If you have ever been considered invisible in your own family, comment, "I am still here" below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, because here, all your stories are heard.